What's up, everyone? Alongside World Series champion Brad Miller, Jared Sandler, with you for our second off-season ball talk episode. I think as things start to spice up a little bit, we might do a little bit more work in this department. But Brad, the winter meetings have come and gone. We've seen some big moves. There's still lots of big moves to be made, but I always think this is a pretty fun time for Major League Baseball. Different than the NBA, right, where it seems like everything kind of happens within a 72-hour flurry. You never really know. You're kind of like always on high alert in baseball offseason in terms of when some of these big moves are going to take place.
Yeah, I think too, it's just fun for like a baseball fan because we don't have our free agency period confined to like 1 week or 2 days in the NFL. But there's obviously more people in the industry in the same building, so you get more stories, you get more content, you get more stuff, and 90% of it isn't signings or whatever. It's little whispers here and there, or what this team might do. So as a fan, I mean, you love everything, the whispers, the rumors, all of it. But I felt like there was some actual signings too, so it was definitely a good week for a baseball fan.
All right, so I guess let's first react to what went down in Florida. And let's start with this. What was the move that stood out the most to you because you thought, man, this is a perfect fit or it's a great deal from a team standpoint, whatever the angle is, which one is most top of mind?
There was a couple little things I liked. I liked in general, I liked the fact the Dodgers with Edwin Diaz. That is exactly how if you have money to spend and you are a class organization, that's exactly how you use your might. Yeah, they blew past the record for most, money per year to a reliever, but who cares? You're paying a tax on top of it, but who cares? It's like that's why you have the money and you're going for it. And I think they were able to get him to sign a 3-year deal when I think he probably, eventually probably could have got 4 or even 5 years. So I like how they got creative there and obviously added, a shutdown closer to the back. And then the one that just makes too much sense, he's been such an amazing fit there, for the last 4 years is Schwarber in Philly. I mean, and it's really kind of crazy what he's been doing. The contract, I know, obviously, for DH and his age, but what he's been doing is insane. He just only hits homers. He seems to be such a good fit for the city, for the clubhouse, all of the things. He's all of the things. And the Phillies are awesome in the fact that they just hey, go do your thing, go see, and just come back to us, and we're going to match whatever. So it doesn't matter. John Middleton and that group, if you're a fan of a team, I mean, they go out and they just re-sign their guys, period. So that one, finally happening, I think everybody's like, yep, makes too much sense.
One thing that stood out about that, not surprised that Schwarber went back to Philly. And you tell me. I mean, I know that a lot of these rumors and whatnot, I mean, you can't substantiate them. I've always said that what's most fascinating to me are not the deals that get done, the deals that don't get done, because you never know what trades are on the table around trade deadline time or in the offseason, or who really was a viable contender for this free agent or that free agent. But by all accounts, it seems like Pittsburgh made a push for Kyle Schwarber, and I think they offered him a 4-year deal. And my understanding is the money was, wasn't going to necessarily compete with Philadelphia, but it was a pretty respectable deal. And this is what's interesting to me about this is a Pittsburgh team or organization that they never try and make moves like this. So they probably knew they weren't going to get Kyle Schwarber, but the fact, and so maybe it's like inviting someone to a party when you know that they're out of town.
Sure.
But, so maybe I don't know. Maybe this is just to appease the fan base. And if Kyle Schwarber signs, then holy crap, we'll figure out what to do financially after that. But I do like seeing Pittsburgh, and I think fake or not, Brad, I do think it's good for a fan base like Pittsburgh's to see their team's name tied to a guy like Kyle Schwarber. I think it helps. Now, eventually, you got to make a move. Otherwise, it's like the boy who cried wolf. But I do like seeing different teams in the mix for big name free agents, even if they don't end up getting them.
100%. It was a breath of fresh air. It was a breath of fresh air to be able to see the Reds in the mix, even if,
Mhm.
okay, he's the hometown guy, but the Reds in the mix, the Pirates in the mix, rather than just these same names, these same names that you can assume, okay, the Dodgers, the Phillies, the Blue Jays now, using some of their financial might. But I think I side on the fact that it's got to be energizing for a fan base, even though they didn't get it. The fact that they're even like stepping up and making these other bigger market teams, pick up the bill. I like that. Like, they're engaging. That's the first step, is engaging.
All right. Now, on the flip side, is there a move that you're kind of taken aback by? Not necessarily a bad move, or a move you're like, I'm not sure that I see the fit right now.
No, I mean, I think with pitching, you can never have too many arms, right? So you look at the Braves locking up two closer type relievers in Suarez and Iglesias. You look at the Mets locking up Devin Williams. I mean, there's always space for arms, and I don't think there's really anything that happened yet where you're kind of like where's the fit, right? Like, I think that's kind of TBD. I think because the position players that have signed, like Pete Alonso to Baltimore, that's awesome. It's exactly what Pete set out to do. The first time in his free agency, combine the two contracts from last year and this year, he's killed it, and he's a run producer. And at the end of the day, I get it. Maybe he gets dinged for a lot of different things because when the spotlight's on you, they're just going to pick you apart. But he has the penchant to drive in runs and hit. So that to me is a fit. It brings even more legitimacy to the Orioles. I think could imagine their front office with a new owner is looking, they're kind of playing for their job. They need to go out and it's not, oh, hey, let's see how we do. No, they need to show some results this year. So I loved that move. So there hasn't really been anything where I'm like, where is this fit? Like, not a signing on top of, an area where you already thought they had, some strengths going on there. The Blue Jays, once again, they're just adding pitching and adding pitching. That's exactly what you should do. They're spending, they're obviously hosting Tucker at the facility. It's like, yeah, I think everybody's acting accordingly. Am I missing anything, Jared? Like, was there
I
anything where
mean,
you kind of had a little note?
yeah, I mean, I was a little surprised. The Grayson Rodriguez Taylor Ward trade was a little
Yes.
surprising. Now that was before the winter meetings, so that wouldn't fall into that bucket. But
Yeah.
I was surprised. I mean, I thought it was a good deal for the Angels. Maybe Grayson Rodriguez never stays healthy, but
But he has ace
I'm
potential, and that is
yeah,
something that the Orioles clearly are looking to. They're trying to add at the top end, and I mean, he's obviously he hasn't necessarily put it all together yet with injuries and whatever, but the potential for sure is there, and it's a lot of years to give up. I think it
yeah.
was 4.
I thought the Nationals bringing Bobby Wilson on and their coaching staff was pretty questionable. Not sure. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm all in
I
on
love
the
Bobby.
Nats. I don't know why. I am all in on the Nats. I don't know the new young guy. He's younger than me. That's taken over. I'm just kind
Blake
of,
Butera.
well, that guy's younger than me, but the GM
Oh,
Taboni.
Paul Taboni. Yeah.
I'm
So
just kind of like, I know they might have a couple really good players on the way out, whether it's Mackenzie Gore, that just kind of don't align with, the control and this, that. I'm kind of in on the Nats. I think that could be a killer job. I think they've over the years, and I know it was with Rizzo, but they've always had superstar players there.
mhm.
And when they've had them, they've lost some, but they can also sign. I don't know. I'm just kind of like the Red Sox. Like, you get a bunch of like potentially young, exciting players. Like, I'm in, and I'm interested to see the Nats. Maybe not. Maybe it doesn't rear its head next year, but like into the future, I think that could be like a killer job. And I don't know. I just got a good feeling about the Nats.
So Paul Taboni, the person you're referring to, went to Cal with Marcus Simeon, but I've gotten to know Paul a little bit over the years. He was a former Brainerd Lakes area lunker, the now defunct Brainerd Lakes area
Yes,
lunkers
of
of the
course.
Northwoods League. Yep. We actually did not overlap. That was my first ever broadcasting gig. He was a year after me, but there were some holdovers from the year I was there, the year that he was there. Mutual friends got connected with him years and years ago.
Yep.
And he just has been on this tear up the
Yep.
ladder with the Red Sox, and I'm super happy for him. Uh, and I think you're right. Like, it's not like that's a small market. It's not like they've not been able to put together some pretty impressive rosters. It's a cool, like, I don't know what it's like from like a player standpoint, but it's like a cool atmosphere, like the ballpark with
Oh, it's
right in the
awesome.
middle of downtown. And so I think that that's not a bad gig at all. And it seems like they're in
No,
the right position to kind of they've got James Wood, they've got some young assets that they can either like
sure.
Mackenzie Gore perhaps trade or build around.
And
So
it
yeah,
seems like
I like it.
Taboni, obviously, I know it's not just one guy. Organizations are big things, but they were doing something right in player development in Boston, getting all of those young. Obviously, they were drafting right, but then not even just drafting right, they were developing these guys. That and getting them, skyrocketing them to the big league level. So I don't know, like obviously that's probably one of the perks, in the job interview process why they targeted him is because he had been part of a organization that was doing something really really profound kind of under his watch or he was in the mix. But yeah, I don't know, I'm just kind of, that's just like a side note, I'm just kind of drinking the Kool-Aid on the Nats. I don't know, I'm buying futures on the Nats for sure.
Yep, I like it. Okay, so there's still a bunch of big names out there. Alex Bregman's a free agent. Kyle Tucker's a free agent. On the trade front, like it seems like Mackenzie Gore, Nick Castellanos, even though Nick Castellanos maybe isn't producing that in a level that's akin to the name recognition, but he's a big name. It seems like those guys are going to get moved. There are other free Framber Valdez. I mean, there's still a bunch of moves to be made that we know will happen. And then, there's always the bucket of moves that we don't know will happen in the trade
Yep.
front, guys who could get moved. I want to ask you, we're going to have a bunch of Rangers fans watching this. I think it's pretty clear the Rangers are not shopping Corey Seager. Other teams are interested in Corey Seager when they see the money that Pete Alonso just got. Well, why wouldn't you be interested in Corey Seager? His deal actually becomes relatively appealing when you consider he's one of the best players in the world. And if Pete Alonso's getting what he just got to play first base for the Orioles, well, yeah, I'd be interested in Corey Seager too. It doesn't seem like the Rangers have any interest in moving him. As a player, when you hear your name talked about, and I know that there are different levels of player, obviously, but how does that affect players? Like if you're Corey Seager right now, are you calling up Chris Young and being like, hey, dude, I'm seeing my name. Like, what's the deal here? Or are you just, you just rolling with it? Like, does it bother you?
Yeah.
Does it not? Like, how does that, what's that dynamic?
I mean, probably it depends. Like, maybe the first time it happens in your career, you might be a little flustered and you go, okay, what is this? Like, you could be a rookie, you could be second year, but a lot of these guys that have played this long, I think more of it is they understand the business, and it might be more annoying just from like a family perspective. Like, maybe you got like an uncle texting your wife, then being like, hey, what's going on? And it's like, okay, like, maybe people that don't understand it, right? But they obviously follow you, they support you. So I think more at this point it's just probably just annoying at times, but these guys understand. They've been around long enough, and if you've produced, then I'm sure your name's popped up. Or you know think about Bryce Harper. Like, he had to answer questions about where he was going to go as a free agent his rookie year.
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy, and he's
And Paul
still, it's like,
Skeens, I feel like Paul Skeens, like same thing.
Exactly. Paul Skeens will have that same kind of treatment like Bryce, and it's obviously a compliment. Of course, I'm sure you'd rather just focus on playing the game, but there's a lot of interest in you because you're so good. So yeah, I think by this time, the guys, you get used to it and you understand. But I want to bring up one name that,
Yeah.
obviously Scooball is who everybody's talking about as far as a potential trade, and it makes sense, right? You get it. You never want to trade a guy like him, but you're kind of in between a rock and a hard place, knowing that you probably aren't going to be in the mix for him long term. So besides him, I think the best player that could be moved, that sounds, once again, we don't know anything, but sounds like he's going to move, is Kettle Marte.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cattell, And you look at, I mean, he has signed like 4 different extensions with the Diamondbacks, and maybe some people don't know or realize how good he has been and how much he's produced. But this guy just, they keep giving him more money every year, and it's still extremely team friendly. And it's just crazy the amount of production. But if you're able to get back like Arizona, they obviously were decimated by pitching injuries last year, and same thing, they are not necessarily a big market team. That's why they've been able to keep Cattell, because he signed some team friendly deals for how good of a player he is. And I mean, this guy's automatic. He has been automatic. And he's really settled in. But when even when we went to Arizona last year and we did those games against the Rangers, like, he's the last guy you want up. I mean, he is just a solid switch hitter, hits everything, hits speed, hits off speed. I mean, he can do it all. So I bet if he gets moved, that could really change a team's lineup. And Arizona might go, hey, if we get 2 starting pitchers we can plug right in, we still do have an exciting young core of offensive players like Corbin Carroll, and some guys that can kind of shoulder a little bit of the loss. But yeah, Ketel Marte is like, this guy is a game changer.
So we're going to identify some players and fits. And I think my understanding is eligibility is simply anyone, right? So it doesn't have to just be free agents, but we could talk about Ketel Marte. And I'll kick this off since you brought up Ketel Marte. One of the 3 names I kind of wrote down was Ketel Marte to the Braves. I know that there's a rumor of Corey Seager to the Braves. That's not going to happen. What about Ketel Marte to the Braves? And the Braves could use some middle infield help. That would be a really interesting fit. I know there are other teams that could use middle infield help. It's not like they're the only team, but that would be one of, if the Braves are wanting to compete in 2026, and I don't know why they wouldn't want to compete with the roster that they have. You've got Drake Baldwin, Sean Murphy, Ronald Acuna Jr., Matt Olson, Austin Riley. You've got a lineup that is built to compete. Ozzie Albies is still there, but he's started to slow down in production.
And maybe he goes back the other way in that deal.
Yep.
Maybe he goes back.
I like Ketel Marte to the Braves. I'd be curious to see if that's a deal the Braves
he's a guy truly, like, you find a way to fit him in, like in the middle of your order, like switch hitter. Like, I like, he settled in at second base, it seems, right? Like, because early in his career, he played a little bit of short. Former teammate of mine, he was like 18 years old when I played with him. But he played center field, he played short, and he settled in at second. He's solid there, and obviously the offense has been incredible. So my fit, and that makes sense, Jared. He would kill it there in Atlanta. He would. And my fit that just makes too much sense is Scooball to the Mets. I know the Mets in that market, right? They lose Diaz, they lose Diaz, they lose Alonso, they trade Nimmo to Texas, like some guys that have been just synonymous with the Mets organization, and everybody's starting to kind of squawk a little bit, and they trade for Scooball and signed Kyle Tucker or signed Cody Bellinger, and I think the noise kind of quiets a little bit, and they go, hey, like, we got our frontline guy, and we know, we can pay him, and we get that year, we get a jump start, and maybe it helps us against the Dodgers next offseason because he likes what we do, and you pair that with a signing of one of the big outfielders, and it's like, hey, Mets had a pretty good offseason, so that one just makes too much sense.
So I'm going to take a different angle on that.
Okay.
I'm going to say Alex Bregman to Detroit. I don't think it's going to happen because he already turned down the Tigers last year. I don't see it happening, but I bring that up as a springboard to Tarik Skubal. To me, and Tigers fans would hate hearing this. They've probably heard it from others already. I think they need to trade Tarik Skubal if they're not going to extend him. And I don't get the sense they're going to extend him.
They can't. No.
Yeah.
But that's also the reason why, though, they're not going to sign Bregman, because they won't, put their toes out there and get it done,
Right. So, but my point is, if you're not going to, you can't let Tarek Skubal walk for a draft pick. This game
Oh,
is
no,
so
no, no.
much
You got to get a
about
haul.
asset. Yeah,
And for the
this
Mets,
game's about.
yes.
Go ahead.
No, and like with the Mets, and it would be a package like this, but we saw those three young arms last year. The Rangers faced them back to back to back, McLean, Tong, and Sproat. You'd get two of them, or if it is with the Dodgers, you would get Emmett Sheehan and Glasnow, or one of their top prospects in Glasnow. Like you would get two arms, I think, that could step right in, and you can thread the needle. And Glasnow is already extended for another 3-4 years, so. You're right. You're playing that short term versus long term game, and Scooball has been so good that it's a reality. You're not going to extend him. If he was just okay, like solid, they'd be like, well, we could. They're not going to get him. Like he is going to set the record wherever he goes next, assuming he's healthy, which I hope he is.
Right.
Going forward. So you're right. I think this is a time to flip him to two starting pitchers into your rotation, plus a starting position player, hopefully.
Yeah. So my point in the Bregman thing is, if you're not going to trade Tarek Skubal, then you need to go for it. Because if you're not going for it, what are you doing? You're
Exactly.
going to lose.
No
You're going to
doubt.
lose Skubal for a draft pick, and unfortunately, I think the roster building side of this, it's all about asset management. So your players either need to help you win on the field that year, or they're going to
Yep.
help you win in the future in a trade,
Yes.
whatever it might be. But you got to max it. Like Tarek Skubal is your greatest asset, and
Yes.
right now he's your best asset every 5 days when he's on the mound. But if you're not going to sign him, he's worth so much more than just a draft pick. And I hate to say this, but here's the other thing too, Brad. Like some people are saying, well, the Tigers are trying to win and blah, blah, blah. I'm not saying that the Tigers have a better chance to win without Tarek Skubal than they do with in 2026. No. They absolutely do, but he's one pitcher. We saw your Texas Rangers in 2023 win the World Series without Jacob deGrom, right?
Yep.
Now, the team was
would have loved him.
Yeah, but but the point is, like,
yes,
you can trade Tarek Skubal and still try and win in 2026.
No doubt.
But also improve your chances to win in 2027. So I have Bregman to the Tigers again. I'm not predicting it, but if I'm the Tigers and I'm not trading Skubal, I need to go for it. Otherwise, what are we doing?
Yeah, you signed Bregman. They already signed Finnegan, but you signed Bregman, you signed Ranger Suarez, and because Skubal walks for nothing, you still need pitching going forward. You signed Ranger Suarez, you keep Skubal, you sign Bregman, and now we go.
Yeah. Okay. So give me the next one that you have on your list.
For trades.
If you don't have one, I got one ready. Trades or signings?
No, you go. Yeah, let it rip.
Well, I don't love this guy or anything, but Framber Valdez to the Orioles. The Orioles.
Framber Valdez Sandler.
Framber Valdez Sandler. Yes, my brother from another father. If the Orioles just signed Pete Alonso and their lineup is outstanding, but they still don't the pitching is still an issue for them.
No.
He'd be a great fit there. Like as far as the ballpark.
Well,
I like Framber Valdez pitching.
100%. And obviously, you never know, but it seems to happen in these, and there's so much movement in baseball between the player and between front offices. Mike Elias, I'm sure, was part of Houston when they signed Framber, just kind of thinking of the timeline. So, I think he goes way back with him. And, you even hear, because they also have a bunch of bats and a bunch of kind of upper level minor league guys. And I know they flipped a couple to get Corbin Burns a couple years ago, but I don't think they probably have the frontline young pitching to get Skubal. But, I see his name being brought up with them is Cabrera with the Marlins. And the Marlins have done a deal with them before. Trevor Rogers, it ended up working out pretty good for them and the Marlins on the other side with Stowers and Connor Norby. Do they reunite again? Do you sign Framber Valdez with like you said, with the ability to keep the ball on the ground, and obviously he's been incredibly durable. He might know Elias, from back in the day. And then do you also trade some of that glut of hitters, to get Cabrera, another pitcher, and now you got Framber, you got Trevor Rogers, you got Cabrera, you got Bradish coming back, you got Dean Kremer, you got Tyler Wells coming back. I mean, like I said, I think the Orioles are a team that are making no, there's going to be no mistake that they are absolutely trying to empty the tank and go for it this year.
And and their bullpen, like they got a bullpen. You know, Ryan. They added Ryan Helsley. I imagine
Yep,
it's
they
going to
got
be as a reliever,
Kittredge
not as a
back.
starter, right? Yeah, Felix
Yep.
Bautista probably not next year, but maybe late. We'll see with his health, but and then they can hit. I mean, they're it just like it was almost like last year was a weird year for them where things just didn't click early. They fell behind in a tough division, but they're way better than what they showed last
No
year.
question. And Kyle Bradish is way better than people. If you don't remember, obviously it was terrible timing. Right when he's starting to come into his peak form, he goes down. But that guy is nasty. Dean Kremer being your fifth starter, it would be awesome. The more we talk about it, if they can go out and still, Tyler O'Neill. I know he's had a ton of injuries in his career, but like, what if he bounces back? And now you got Ward and O'Neill and Alonso. That's three right-handed hitting power guys to pair with Gunnar Henderson, Jackson Holiday. They still have Mountcastle and Kobe Mayo, and maybe those guys are used in some sort of deal to get something. Maybe Kobe Mayo's down there, playing first or third for the Marlins next year if they acquire Cabrera. So that one makes a lot of sense, man. Makes a lot of sense. And they want to be pitching in the playoffs, and we know Framber can pitch in the playoffs. So they might and it might just be like Pete, right? They're willing to just go that extra year or that extra whatever, and they get the deal done. So maybe they do that with Framber. They're willing to go 6 years, or if it's 7 years, and they get it. They get their guy. And you buy an Orioles jersey immediately.
I mean, not me, but my clone, Jared Sandler Valdez or Framber Valdez Sandler, whatever, is buying an Orioles jersey. I mean,
yes, no question.
I would tell you that I would, if they got a stud pitcher and then another good pitcher to where they could push some of the names you just mentioned.
Yes, exactly.
Dean Kramer's my sixth starter, which means he
I
will
feel
make
great.
25 starts. Yeah.
I feel great. And Tyler Wells too. Obviously, these guys that are kind of this injury, like you don't want to pencil them down for 30 starts, but they're very effective. And it's like, okay, if there's a part of the season where you got to go to 6 men, or you got, you get a guy that needs a little breather, fine. I'm with you, dude. The more we talk about them, hypothetically, they make a couple moves. Like I'm kind of in on the O's, and I love Craig Albernaz. He was one of like the 15 coaches when I was with the Rays in 2016, 17, and 18 in the organization or on my major league staff. I think there's been like 9 managers now. Like it's crazy. So I'm happy for him. He was our one of our minor league coordinators, and he was around a ton, obviously, in spring, and he was just an amazing dude. And he's gonna kill it there. I did love his intro like press conference when it's like he has the thickest Boston accent in the world. And he's like, all right, let's go birds. Let's go. He just like has this accent. It sounds so ridiculous. See you out of Camden Yards, like amazing. But also talking about Boston, that is kind of my other team, Jared. Like they need to make some moves, of course, right? And once again, tough market. They get beat up all the time, and they just, in the offseason we still got months. But Boston gets me excited. I think they make a couple moves here and there. I love Sonny Gray. They make a couple moves here and there, add another pitcher, add a couple bats. Maybe they get Bo Bichette and Bregman. Who knows? Maybe they get Bregman and, another big bat. But like, I'm just I want to see what they do, because they might be the best team in the American League next year. Boston.
Yeah, that's a like that. They're so athletic too, which I love. Like, we always talk about like, hey, this team needs this, and it's like framed in the through the lens of like positions, like they need a second baseman, they need a short, whatever. But I think like it's also important you have certain skill sets, and every team's got their own identity. But one of the things I love about Boston is the athleticism that they have.
And
with guys like Duran and Rafaela.
Yes. Yeah, Rafaela can play anywhere. Platinum glove in center, can play short, can play second. I know he'll probably just play center. I'm pretty sure he was the best defensive center fielder in the league last year. Duran, like, I mean, there's so many teams I would love to see Duran on. Like, I just would love to see him on the Rangers hitting a gap. I mean, it's like an inside the park homer every time. Like, he is just electric. and I don't know if they hold on to him or not. Wilbur Abreu, Rangers killer. I mean, that could, they got some guys. They got some guys. So you know that the Red Sox offseason is very far from being finished. It's in progress. So I'm just excited to kind of follow and see what they do.
Any final thoughts
Final
on
thoughts.
anything?
Final thoughts on anything.
Bottom of the ninth,
If
bases
Framber
loaded,
signs
2
with the
outs.
Orioles, you have to get a jersey. You have to get a Framber jersey. I'll get you one.
I won't wear any that, like, even with college stuff, I won't wear it unless it's USC. Like I will.
Well,
other
Framber
college
was
stuff.
committed to USC.
Oh, was he? I missed
Yes,
that. I
yes, he was.
somehow did.
Then he
Yeah,
hit the portal. He hit the portal and ended up with Houston. But Jared, I don't have anything. I think baseball is in a really good place. I just hope we can keep this momentum going. And World Baseball Classic in the spring is going to be amazing. I'm love seeing Aroldis Chapman, Team Great Britain potentially.
I
That'll
saw
be
that.
fun. Top of the morning to you, or whatever
That'd be
they say.
amazing.
I think
I
that's a
don't think.
different
Yeah,
country.
that's that. And it might. Yeah, yeah.
But
That might be Ireland or something.
fish and chips. That's what we used to call Aroldis, fish and chips. Because we knew
Yeah.
of the Great Britain link.
I love.
Um,
Yeah, I love talking to him about London
Yeah, his favorite
and all
spots
the.
to eat in the
Yeah,
city, his
yeah,
favorite pubs. Yeah, and he was a big Chelsea fan. So now he's
yeah.
finally getting to play for Great Britain. So
Love it.
um, yeah, no, I'm excited about the rest of this offseason. I think, the game is so healthy. There's so many young stars that are just fun to watch. And yeah, I don't know. That's all I got.
All right, Brad. Well, there you go. He's Brad Miller. I'm Jared Sandler. We'll do another one of these probably a little bit after the new year, or if the Rangers make a big move, or if there's a huge move, Tarek Skubal gets traded or something, maybe we'll hop on and talk some more ball in the wake of that. But Brad, thanks so much. We'll talk soon.
Thanks, Jared.